The connection between Judaism and the environment is very, very strong, reaching all the way back to our earliest days as an emerging people in the Canaanite hills in 1250 BCE. We grew up in that environment with an awareness that we had to somehow figure out how to live on the land and have a relationship with the local ecology. I'm putting it in modern terms now, but this is basically what happened, so that we could continue to survive. There was that time of a separation between the nomadic shepherding life and the settled domestic civilization life. And for people to live in a settled place, they had to be able to manage their resources. So a number of principles come into effect in Judaism. One of them is kashrut, keeping kosher, where we designate certain animals we can eat and certain animals we can't eat. And Rabbi David Seidenberg has actually done some interesting writing about this relative to, we don't eat the animals that would compete with us for food. We eat the animals that can eat the grasses, who can, hang out on rocky terrain, that, there's rules about and to separate ourselves from that sort of immediacy of passion of eating, so that we slaughter in a certain way. We don't eat the blood, which is a symbol of life. We don't eat things that our neighbors ate. So some of and so the whole enterprise is, how do we make the mundane sacred? So if we just step back, the general principle is, how do we make the mundane sacred? And one of the ways that Judaism enters that question is through our food and our food choices and how we prepare our food. So there are different things in Torah about what trees you can cut, even in time of war, about how you can't eat the limb of a living animal. Oy, can you imagine? But that was a practice because people didn't have refrigeration. They just cut off a part of the animal and eat it. So we don't do that. There are rules about not eating meat with milk. So you might wonder what that is. There's a moral implication there that you shouldn't cook something that's dead in a substance that gives life. So there's all these beautiful practices that surround food. Of course, recently, since the 1970s, there's been a rise of something called eco-kashrut. Rabbi Zalman Schechter Shalomi was the first to coin that term back in the 70s, that apply not only the rules of kashrut, of slaughtering and of whether you can eat the blood and and salting and all that stuff, with the ethical imperative of how we treat the animals, how we treat the workers who are growing the animals, how we treat the land that is growing the food for the animals, on and on and on. So there is now it adds to the foundational rules of making the mundane sacred by applying the images and the ethical principles of how we treat the entire ecosystem of food production, so that it's not just how we're slaughtering the animals, but it's also the bigger picture. And there is now a official stamp that the conservative movement and other liberal groups have put on food, that not just it's kosher, but it's eco-kosher. So that's very nice.